So I would presume this is a good sign in terms of U.S.-China trade talks, at least. We've cleared this hurdle, which had been a hurdle for further talks.
I agree with that. That's a conversation we started the show with last night, and I agree that this does nothing to sort of take it off the rails at all. I think it helps, and I do think it's more positive for the Chinese market than the U.S. market, in my opinion. The Oracle take, real quick, to the extent that it even matters, you know, that stock went up 30% after earnings last week. You guys, I know, talked about it. I mean, that's not a natural thing, but we've seen similar. We saw Broadcom in December of last year with a similar move. These are not small companies. Question is, does this move the needle? Probably. But at 38 times now, next year's numbers, are you willing to pay up that much for Oracle? And the question, that's a question you have to ask, because that OpenAI deal, $300 billion over 5 years, that's great. You know, what's the earnings on that? That's still yet to be determined. So you're deep end of the pool here, I think, in Oracle.
So it's interesting to me that the government chose not to take a stake, it seems, or get a stake for free. I'm not really sure. I think, you know, we saw a couple of weeks ago the 15% to the U.S. government for NVIDIA, which I think that is no longer the case. Is that, I mean, I'm not quite sure, actually. But the Intel thing where the government was putting in money, so that made that is fairly straightforward. Then you have the U.S. Steel deal where the government has, I guess, a board position.
I think that it would be dangerous. You'd be on dangerous ground for the government to take a stake in a social media company that has the power to influence. I think,
as opposed to the president owns a social media company.
Yes, that is clearly disclosed, as opposed to creating rules in which the government can actually own a stake, because that's basically what he created the situation for him to just take a stake. Which,
not him, the government.
The government, yeah.
The government, yeah. Yes. I don't know. Actually, that doesn't seem wildly different to me. But I don't know. It is interesting and somewhat perplexing. But okay. I mean, he's telegraphed for a long time this is what was going to happen. But I do think, to your original point, is it good for? It's certainly a positive sign for U.S.-China relations that there will be something to discuss.
Yeah, and I think one of my big takeaways from this is the fact that they're re-engineering the algorithm. Like, that really is the gold mine of TikTok, is their algorithm seems to be much better than what you're getting on Meta or some of their competitors. So I think the question is re-engineering going to make it as effective as it is right now? And so is TikTok going to be as valuable as people think it is right now? Yeah. And that I don't think we have the answer on, but I think that's something that we have to see. So I think there is a lot of excitement over things like Oracle and these other companies that are going to be taking a stake in it. But you have to see how it changes, because social media can change on a dime. If it is not as good as people expect, they're going to go on to the next platform. So I think seeing how that algorithm changes is going to be a key in how you want to value this.
I mean, that's what we were saying, Dan, a long time ago when this first surfaced, that you know, the ownership of TikTok would in fact be challenged. It's what is TikTok if it were not for the algorithm? And the assumption that a U.S. team can re-engineer, if it were that easy to do, lots of other people would do it too, unless they've got some sort of inside track, which presumably U.S. employees of TikTok might have.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, there's a huge race for talent right now. We just saw what Meta was just doing. They're paying hundreds of millions of dollars for AI talent. They're getting it from Apple. They're getting it from OpenAI. They're getting it from Google. I'm not sure there's enough to go around right here. Courts, you know, her view is the right one here. If they kind of mess with this algo and it's not the same product, then you have a degraded sort of entity. The other thing I just say is that, listen, if this is about user data, if this is about national security, if this is about oversight of the algorithm and corporate governance, that's fine, okay? Like we get it. This is something that the Trump administration, the first time around, was really behind, right? So the fact now that they're giving this sweetheart deal to a private equity company, a VC company that lined up behind the president, Oracle, which obviously the chairman of that company is very close to the administration, this seems a bit cozy. When I think about Oracle, also, they have had this cloud business. They have had TikTok's business for the last 3 years, right? And if you go back and look at 2022, you know, Oracle couldn't get out of its own way. Even since then, they have low single digits market share of the cloud business. The fact that the stock opened up today the way it did and kind of came off, I think it's investors, saying to themselves, there's no clarity about what this kind of means, what the ownership structure means. There's no clarity about what they would have to build in addition to what they've already done. Basically is at odds with what they're building out for Stargate, OpenAI, and the like. So I think there's more questions than answers right now, and I think that's one of the reasons why Oracle is probably not in that much better a position than it was, let's say, 3 trading days ago.